Hi, I'm Dave Rutherford with Jay Hill. Jay, today we're talking about something that the country's been trying to figure out for quite some time. What is Justin Trudeau talking about? Yeah, you can never figure out what this guy means after he says something. We're talking about his comments he made at the G20 in Argentina when he was maybe babbling, I don't know, but he was going on about gender equity, which seems to be one of his sort of fave things to buff up his feminist image.
He's ingraining this gender equity issue into every government policy. He tried to ingrain it into the new NAFTA agreement.
Right.
And that slowed down the whole negotiation because he wanted to bring in this issue of a gender lens. So what did he say down there? Let's read the exact quote and let people judge for themselves. This is what it was, and I quote, "What does a gender lens have to do with building this new highway or a new pipeline? Well, there are impacts when you bring construction workers into a rural area. There are social impacts because they are mostly male construction workers." And this ignited those comments. End of quote. Those comments ignited this fire across, in particular, Western Canada, but there's a lot of construction workers, I would argue, in the East as well. Yeah. And the families, the women started coming forward and saying, well, wait a minute, you're talking about my husband, you're talking about my son, you're talking about my father. We don't believe that he creates a negative impact when he's working away from home. Right. Quite the opposite. He is bringing a lot of good to these communities, these rural communities where they happen to be working.
I mean, I don't think anybody really wants to work in a work camp in out in the wilderness somewhere,
or living in a small town. Living in a motel.
They don't want to do that. And if they had a job that would pay the same or even be available closer to home, they would take it. So you're right. He's victimized every single construction worker male, even the women. In every work camp and every infrastructure project in Canada. He's insulted them all. Are there impacts when you get a whole large group of people in one place that didn't normally house them? Sure. Are there people who are assholes among the men who are in these camps? You bet. But maybe no greater than if they were living in a city. I mean, there are bad people around. But
they are who they are.
The idea that just because you're a male in a rural environment, close to a small town, that you're going to abuse those people. And that's what he said. I think that's what he said.
It isn't what he said. And of course, this is what the liberal defenders of Trudeau will say is, well, read what he said. That isn't what he meant. But I would ask people to listen to them. I mean, I just finished reading the exact quote. What do you think that he meant? What do you think he meant when he said that? If it wasn't that, we have to be cautious of, so many males, so many men being, does he judge everybody by the action that he apologized for down in the Kootenays when he groped a reporter? Well, yeah. And then he apologized and said, well, had I known you were reporting for a national newspaper, I might have behaved differently. No, is that how he's judging? Is that the lens that he's judging people by? Is by his own actions?
Well, he's never worked in a work camp, that's for damn sure. So,
he wouldn't know it.
He wouldn't know anything about it. Hasn't got a clue. I want to just read one thing quickly. It's from it's another perspective on this whole work camp, large construction crews in small towns. This woman in Grand Prairie went to Facebook, and she said, "Dear Justin Trudeau, I'm a 26-year-old waitress who worked in one of those biggest oil field hubs in Alberta in Grand Prairie. I worked in a pub during the evenings. We were open 7 days a week. Pretty much every night we were packed with these construction workers and oil field lowlifes. You want to know what kind of social impact they had on me? I'm a female in this social setting you're referring to, after all. Because of these men, I was able to go to grocery shopping and get everything on my list. I didn't have to stand at the checkout line and figure out what to put back. I was able to fill up my tank at the gas station, not just $20 to get by. I was able to live comfortably in an apartment knowing my bills were paid on time and I wouldn't have to worry about choosing between the water or electric bill. I was one of the waitresses, cooks, drivers, hotel, grocery store, local business owners, etc. who are impacted by these men." She's saying they are a tremendous benefit to these small towns. There are people who rely on that industry
And that income.
Yeah, and that income. Yeah. And that's exactly what she is saying.
Generosity of these, in many cases, of these workers.
So, you know, she says these guys working 12 hours a day. They go back to their hotel rooms at night and, you know, that's their life. And so
I don't think most of them, I used to do this. I used to work in the oil patch. And I used to, you know, if we were staying near a town, we would stay in a motel or a hotel or whatever. And I can tell you, it wasn't much fun, you know, and then getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning when it was 40 below and getting the truck started and go out to the oil patch to do your work.
Yeah.
You know, so, and this annoys me to no end, you know, that he would single out this group. You know, and I would say if he's such a bloody champion of women, why doesn't he do more for those from Islamic countries that are treated like property? Why doesn't he do that? And he should especially denounce those practices and say they're completely unacceptable in Canada. I mean, this is going on in our nation, and, you know, he holds himself up as this great feminist. But, you know,
I would hope also, though, that he would celebrate the women who are getting into these trades more and more and more.
Yes.
They're smart, accomplished, you know, thinking women who are in the workforce as well. So let's hope that happens as well, that he supports them.
Let's hope.
Jay, it's one of those things. I don't have a lot of optimism, however, in that department. Should I say now we're out of time? Because I just had one of those mental things like, is it time?
I think it's
hey!
But you know what?
Yeah.
Before we go.
I was thinking about that.
You know, our producers produce these caps for us.
How do they look?
We continue to circulate the Dave and Jay Show, so make sure you subscribe.
We're everywhere.